entitled to appeal the decision of City Council or the local planning appeal board. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the City of Belleville before the related bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal, unless in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. Comments received at this public meeting, as well as written comments, will be considered by the Engineering and Development Services Department in analysis of the applications that were part of the public meeting tonight. For further information on how to provide comments to the city regarding an application from this public meeting, please email planning@belleville.ca. A recommendation report will be brought forward upon receipt of all agency and public comments in the future. Any persons wishing to be advised of the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee's recommendations with respect to today's applications are requested to provide their name and address, as well as the application in which they have an interest in writing to the City of Belleville. So with that, call attendance. I see everyone is present. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. We're on to public meeting. 3.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting, Potters Creek Phase 9A revised application for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 10245 and 2076-80, part of block 65, block 66, plan 21M-288, part lots 33 and 34, concession 1, former township of Sydney, now City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1117. Owner is Potters Creek Developments Incorporated and DeWall Holdings Limited, and the agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated. If I could have staff present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we could have the staff presentations. Oh, thank you, Mark. Oh, that would be the applicant's presentation. There we are. So as noted in the application title, this is a resubmission of the application that previously went to a public meeting in August of 2020. Based on comments received at that time, the applicant has since revised their proposal, and based on the changes made, a new public meeting is required. The applicant is requesting to amend draft plan 12T-0651 through redline revisions and rezone 10.55 hectares of vacant land north of Potters Creek Phase 8, now referred to as Potters Creek Phase 9A. The application proposes to rezone the subject land from an urban holding zone and residential fourth density exception 48 zone to a residential fourth density exception 48 zone and a new residential fourth density zone with special provisions to permit the development of 82 single detached dwellings, a residential fifth density exception 43 zone with special provisions to permit the development of 14 new townhouses, as well as a new residential sixth density exception zone with special provisions to permit the development of 3 four-story apartment buildings, each containing 55 dwelling units. So the main changes in the revised application is that the total land area subject to the rezoning has changed from 7 hectares, which is what it was originally, to 10.55 hectares. The total number of proposed dwelling units for this phase has also changed from a total of 235 units to 261 units. However, the overall residential density has been reduced from 45 units per net hectare to 35 units per net hectare. The proposed apartment block has also been relocated north. So I think by approximately 140 meters north, and this block has been enlarged as well. There's also been a road connection established, which will connect Siena Avenue to Avonlea Road in this phase. And then additionally, there will be a 3-meter multi-purpose path proposed along Siena Avenue, Sandhu Crescent, and Hastings Park Drive, and this would provide connections to the existing active transportation network in the surrounding area. With that, I will pass it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And we have Ruth Ferguson-Althouse to make a presentation. So Ms. Ferguson-Althouse, you're in the meeting now.
Thank you. Just adjusting my screen here. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Desta for the overview of the resubmission for the Potters Creek Phase 9A. I have prepared a very brief presentation, and just to review in more detail the responses to the public comments from the August public meeting, and how the plan has been revised to reflect the concerns of the community, as well as some requests from the city. This was heard by the Planning Advisory Committee on August the 4th. We met with the city within another couple of weeks following that. And the city also requested a sanitary servicing study, which took a few months to prepare. So our resubmission was not made until November of 2020. Next slide. As has been described, this is the northern extension of the existing Potters Creek subdivision. It is the final phase within the subdivision, which was approved in 2008. It's located within the Belleville urban serviced area boundary and is part of the Loyalist secondary plan area. It is essentially surrounded by lands that have been developed for earlier phases of Potters Creek subdivision, as well as vacant lands that are slated for future development. Some open space associated with the Potters Creek watershed corridor. The Susanna Moody Elementary School and Loyalist College are to the north and to the west. And essentially the land butts up to phase 8 and phases 1 and 2 of Potters Creek. Next slide. As referenced, this is an approved plan of subdivision dating from 2008. And since Potters Creek Developments purchased the subdivision in 2010, this subdivision has been rolling out in phases over the past decade. As this shown in red is to consider phase 9A and what is considered as a redlining, which means there's some revisions to the original draft approved plan of subdivision. As each phase has been rolling out, it has also been subject to specific zoning bylaw amendments because the subdivision was not zoned in 2008. So as a result of that, there's a public meeting held for each phase of the development. But at that time in 2008, there was 790 residential units approved for this subdivision. And within phase 9, there was significant development proposed in the way of apartment blocks, one for medium density residential, which was for 71 units, and another one at the very north end for high density and 171 units. Now, what we've proposed is to adjust that subdivision to actually overall, we're reducing the number of apartment units in phase 9 and we're consolidating into one block. So there's a slight decrease in the overall number of units, and there are more singles and townhouses, as you will see as I describe the project. And Siena Avenue is the north-south collector road that would tie into Avonlea Road at the north terminus, and this was approved as part of the draft plan. And this particular phase 9A will see the completion of Siena Avenue and that connection to the north. Next slide. This is a slide that shows the red line in greater detail. The subdivision, the color coding for the single detached dwellings, the pale yellow and the darker yellow and the tan color are all single detached units. So you can see the predominant use of land is for single detached units. And there are 82 single family homes overall that are proposed. There's a small grouping of townhouses, 14 in total, 7 in each block. And at the northern limit in the pink color are the apartment units, 165 overall, which is the same as what was presented in the August meeting. As referenced, the overall density is 35 units per net hectare. And there will be trails extended onto Siena, Sandu, and Hastings Park Drive, all for multi-purpose active transportation. And this plan, although it's not entirely easy to see on the slide, has street trees proposed on both sides of all roads and sidewalks on all roads where there is not a multi-purpose trail. Next slide. This is an enlargement of the proposed apartment block, Block 85 on the draft plan. It's much larger than previous. It's 2.7 hectares, and the pink blocks are the three four-story apartment buildings that will have 165 rental units in total. So there'll be 55 two-bedroom units in each building. It will be developed by Reeds, who you met in August, and for Skyline, their development company. There will be a central amenity building with patio and outdoor play space. That is the square block building in the center of the site plan. There will be 2 entrances off of Siena for the apartment complex on the east side. And there is a 1.5 parking spaces per unit, which is exceeds the city requirement of 1.25 spaces per unit. So almost 250 parking spaces in total. Over half of the property will be landscaped open space shown in green. And this exceeds the requirements in the city's zoning bylaw by 13%. To the north and to the east, this site will overlook open space and future parkland. And as of course, with the addition of 165 rental units, it will help the city achieve its rental housing targets. Next slide. Just wanted to summarize the concerns of the public at the meeting on August the 4th. And this is elaborated in the planning report, which is updated with this submission. Traffic was one of the key concerns, and there was concern about the increased traffic and the fact that Siena Avenue was not going to be extended completely to Avonlea Road. And with this revision, Siena Avenue will connect to Avonlea Road, and all construction traffic will be using this connection from the north, so that that construction traffic will not be routed through Potters Creek. The full construction of Siena Avenue in connection to Avonlea may be delayed until Phase 9B, subject to the detailed design approval by the City of Belleville. We've also removed 20 townhouse units on Hastings Park Drive, and this will reduce the traffic flows in the vicinity of Sandu Crescent and Aldersgate Drive. The location of the apartment block was a major concern, and as Desta has mentioned, we've shifted the apartment block to 140 meters to the north. So it's now substantially distant from any existing dwellings, 250 meters from the closest dwelling to the south and 110 meters from the closest dwelling to the west. The apartment block itself has additional green space, as I've referenced, and it will be surrounded by future parkland to the north and to the east. With respect to density, apartment block that was in the original draft approved plan was for very high density development at 148 units per hectare. This submission would be for 61 units per hectare for the apartment block. And the density has been reduced as well by removing the 2-story townhouse units. And in conclusion, the density overall has been reduced to 35 units per net hectare overall. When considering this subdivision in its totality. So with respect to the character of the area, which was the other concern that was referenced by the community, there are more single detached units which will replace the townhouses. The medium density block itself has been replaced by single detached units. Phase 9A does not abut any existing homes on Hastings Park Drive. There's no grade change or tree buffering concerns as a result. And singles will all face or back onto singles in the existing phases of Potters Creek. Next slide. I've tried to show this graphically to walk you through how these changes are from the August submission, which is shown on the left-hand side of the slide. and the proposed current redlining submission, which is on the right. So the first is the increase in the single detached units. So there's been the addition of single detached units along Siena on the west side, and these are the same as the original single detached units in the original 2008 draft plan, but in place of the medium density block, there is now significantly more single detached units when that's shown in number 2. So if you compare 2 from the left to the right, you'll see that the pale yellow referencing all of the additional single detached units where there was previously 70 approved medium density units in the original draft plan. The townhouses are restricted just to the small blocks on 3, and those are all bungalow townhouses that are proposed, shown on 3 on the plan. And then on the north side of Hastings Park Drive, there were proposed 2-story townhouse units at number 4, and those are now all single detached units being proposed. And finally, of course, the apartment block number 5 is been shifted 140 meters to the north. So you can see the comparison of that and how it is now at the very northern end of the subdivision. And Siena Avenue has now been extended along the entire frontage of that block. Next slide. Just very briefly, with respect to the servicing, I don't believe there's been any concerns expressed about the servicing by the community, but the city had wanted an additional review of the sanitary contributions from this phase of the development to the Palmer Road pump station. So there was an extensive engineering review by Ainley to show that there are no concerns with respect to that capacity from this subdivision approval. And all of the existing phases in Potters Creek have been designed and sized to accommodate the eventual development of phase 9 through the connections at Siena, Sandu, and Aldersgate. And stormwater will be a combination of directing the flow to the existing swim pond at the south end as well as to the north to the unnamed tributary of Potters Creek, and there will be quality controls to ensure that the surface water is properly treated before it enters any water courses. Next slide. This slide shows the connection that will be made from Siena Avenue through phase 9, eventually up to Avonlea Road. And the Siena Avenue beginning at the south end of Dundas Street West with the red circle, that was a new intersection. It signalized, of course, that will form a major north-south collector and essentially replace Avonlea Road as the north-south collector, the south part of it, when it links to Avonlea Road at the north. So this phase will see that construction of the Siena Avenue, that final link, which will be important to improve traffic flow through the area. And as I also referenced, that area in blue would be used for the construction access for phase 9. The road design for Potters Creek, I did want to reference, was reviewed extensively by the city in a traffic study done by Marshall McLemonahan in 2015. So we're really essentially rolling out a subdivision design that was already approved in terms of the road network and traffic impacts from that study. Next slide. Just very briefly, the Loyalist secondary plan, this is an extract of that schedule. In yellow shows the residential land use designation, and the subdivision is shown in the black outline. The lands are all designated as residential, and they butt up at the north to the tributary of Potters Creek and open space lands. So you can see that relationship there. And the blue designation would be the Susanna Moody as well as Loyalist College. So these lands are very close in proximity to those community facilities. This planning report provides a very detailed review of the Loyalist secondary plan policies with respect to the various densities and the conformity of the subdivision to all of the policies in the Loyalist secondary plan. Next slide. With respect to the zoning, we would be using zones that exist already within the Potters Creek subdivision. And so the lands, as I referenced, were not zoned at the time of the subdivision approval. They're essentially mostly in an urban holding zone from the old Sydney zoning bylaw. and they would be zoned to permit the singles, which is the R448 zone, and the townhouses, the R543 zone, and then the apartment block would be in the R6 zone, which would have essentially follow the city's requirements for that type of apartment zone. Final slide. In conclusion, this resubmission results in 261 total units. However, it is still fewer apartments and overall number of units than the original approved draft plan of subdivision for Potters Creek. The redlining revisions have been made, the second submission and responding to the public concerns by increasing the single detached units, by shifting the apartment block northwards along Siena Avenue to the Potters Creek corridor. The previous medium density block has been replaced with singles. The two-story townhouse blocks have been removed and replaced with single detached, and Siena Avenue is extended through to Avonlea Road. Finally, it will help the city achieve the rental housing targets that it has set through its community improvement plans, and the subdivision and rezoning is consistent with the 2020 PPS and the Loyalist secondary plan policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there any questions to Ms. Ferguson-Althouse? No, I don't see any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next individual listed is Jeff Laboulier. Okay, I think he withdrew, I'm told. Next one is Christopher Destin. Mr. Destin, you have joined the meeting and you have the floor.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And is I'm sorry, what can you see my presentation on my screen?
No. Do you?
Yeah, the last time I did this, the host shared my presentation onto the webinar for me.
Okay. Did we get a copy of that? Did you submit a copy?
No, it was to be done by remote control, was my understanding, that the host takes remote control of my computer and...
Oh, so to share your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to share your screen, you can go ahead. You're able to do that.
Okay. So can you see my Happy New Year screen?
I can.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. All right. Good evening, everyone. If I could start by wishing everyone a Happy New Year. Last year's behind us. The challenges of the pandemic are not. So I'm very grateful for the accommodations that have been made that have allowed for public input on matters such as these to continue. I'd also like to comment that there have been many changes that have been made to the plan so far that are very positive, and I'm encouraged by the fact that concerns from the public have been heard and considered in this new plan, and I'm confident that that approach will be continued. The revised plan does address many of the concerns that were voiced last summer, but some significant concerns remain, particularly from the perspective of the residents of Hastings Park Subdivision. The remaining concerns are related to the fact that Phase 9A involves the first stage of construction of a road system for which there are no clear, updated, publicly consulted plans. Proceeding with this plan without the guidance of a larger plan will jeopardize the city's ability to preserve the unique streetscapes, character, and amenities of the Hastings Park subdivision. To quickly review what I presented last summer, the Hastings Park subdivision sits between the growing Potters Creek subdivision to the east and the soon-to-be proposed Lands of Avonlea development to the west. The Hastings Park subdivision was developed 30 years ago when it was part of Sydney Township, and has since been transferred to Belleville. It's a suburban rural subdivision with very large lots to accommodate septic systems. It's serviced with city water, but no sanitation sewers. There are open ditches with no sidewalks. The roads are all local roads. There are no through roads. They are all contained within the subdivision. Hastings Park Drive is not a through road. It functions to accommodate local residents only, which we've overestimated to be about 50 cars per day. This is a significant amenity. Cul-de-sacs and looped roads are common in all new developments, and those properties are considered more desirable than those on through roads for the amenities that they provide. As a result of the low traffic, our roads are used and enjoyed for recreation on a regular basis by the residents, and wildlife is abundant. These amenities are what drew many residents to the subdivision. They allow for neighbor and community interaction and enhance the quality of life. It's difficult to imagine a better place to have had a home and raised a family. My family has enjoyed and appreciated our life here for the last 15 years. Phase 9A appears to be the beginning of the end of that for us, and it's not supported by the Loyalist secondary plan. The Loyalist secondary plan was developed in 2008 and passed in 2010. It was due for review in 2015, so it's long overdue. Just for context, consider that it was last designed back when Stephen Harper was a relatively new prime minister, George W. Bush was president, Matt Sundin was captain of the Maple Leafs, Adele had just won New Artist of the Year, and I had a full head of hair. So much has changed since then, including the needs of our community. But our secondary plan hasn't been updated. However, it contains policies regarding urban design and a road system plan that are relevant to 9A. The road system plan is of particular concern. As I outlined in the last meeting on this, the road system is ambiguous and needs the further clarification that only a detailed study and public review can provide. It is noteworthy that the secondary plan states that the precise location of collector roads can only be determined following detailed study. It's time to do one. The land use map from the secondary plan does show a collector road where one is planned for 9A, but it terminates at Siena. So the need for a roundabout at that intersection as indicated in the proposed plan for 9A is questionable. The connection to Avonlea Road was to be made to the north of Hastings Park subdivision. The dashed lines shown here are not a road, they are a bell easement. The same is shown on the secondary plan's transportation map. No connection to Hastings Park subdivision. The new collector road in 9A is being called Hastings Park Drive, so the intent to continue it is clear, as shown here in the 2008 subdivision plans for Potters Creek. This is when the connection to Hastings Park Drive first appeared, a plan which was eventually approved, but Hastings Park subdivision residents were assured at the time by city planners that it would not result in any change to the character of our subdivision, as it was to be the end of the line, and thus the connecting road would only be used by Hastings Park subdivision residents. But now, plans are underway to extend Hastings Park Drive even further across the proposed Lands of Avonlea development, all the way to Walbridge Loyalist Road, with an additional roundabout to be constructed right in our subdivision. There is no support for any of this in the secondary plan. How would all of the new residents of Avonlea travel to Belleville? It appears that the only route will be directly through our subdivision down Hastings Park Drive. Here's an aerial view of the lands showing the existing roads. Siena is the collector road shown in fuchsia. The current Hastings Park Drive is the tiny one shown in green. In blue is the approximate location of the new Hastings Park Drive collector road proposed for 9A. The intent is clearly to add the traffic circle in red and continue the road here shown in yellow during phase 9B and connect to the original Hastings Park Drive. Now, there are plans being made to add a second traffic circle and continue the road across the proposed Avonlea development here to Walbridge Loyalist Road. Zooming in, you can see that this collector road will sever a significant portion of our subdivision from their neighbors. It is short-sighted to only look at 9A. Yes, the subdivision plan was approved with the collector road in the locations shown in blue and yellow. And those portions of the collector road will have no direct or immediate impact on the residents of the Hastings Park subdivision. But it's the start of something much larger that will, because the development needs, admittedly, have changed over the last 12 years. And now planning is going ahead without an updated secondary plan to guide it. And that is the problem. A clear, updated, publicly consulted secondary plan is required to provide planners and developers the mandate and guidance to develop their subdivision plans. And so I ask, will it be the private planners and developers that devise that plan for the area independently, and then the city will design a secondary plan to follow suit? Shouldn't it be the other way around? The character and amenities of Hastings Park subdivision are at stake. The guidelines for urban design in the Loyalist secondary plan clearly call for the preservation of important streetscapes in unique neighborhoods and mitigation of impacts of adjacent land uses. Hastings Park Drive, as it exists now, is an important streetscape, and the Hastings Park subdivision is a unique neighborhood that should be preserved. Without a doubt, losses of nature will occur as they do with the expansion of urban environments. The deer, fox, coyote, songbirds, tree frogs will likely be gone. But if there are alternative ways to design the road system to retain our local roads for recreation and connecting with our neighbors, to preserve the Hastings Park subdivision community, then those alternatives should be examined. 9A begins the process of reclassification and reconstructing Hastings Park Drive from a local road that services about 20 to 30 single-family homes to a collector road that will service thousands. A minor collector road is designed to carry 300 to 500 vehicles per peak hour. That's 10 times more in a single hour than the road currently sees in an entire day. We submitted a petition signed by the vast majority of our residents against this at the last meeting. What alternatives could be explored for developing around Hastings Park subdivision rather than through it? How many of those alternatives are lost by proceeding with 9A and committing to the location and its new Hastings Park Drive collector road? For example, an alternative for connecting Siena to Avonlea is identified here in the secondary plan. Taking a look at the proposed Plan 9A, that road should be here. As you can see, this option will be lost, as there will be homes built there on the west side of Siena. This illustrates the need for a larger plan, particularly for 9B. Also, this piecemeal approach to planning and developing, where we have a plan for 9A and none for 9B, delays other concerns about the elevation difference of the new development and the problems that come with it. The end of Limerick Drive illustrates the dramatic change in elevation, a change that exceeds 10 feet. This has caused problems with drainage, with some of our local residents reporting that their sump pumps now run continuously. Yes, continuously. Imagine the implications of that for a moment if that were happening in your basement. Other neighbors now have new homes on all sides of them, literally looking down on them in their backyard. No one here objects to having new neighbors, but that shouldn't mean living in a fishbowl. What are the potential solutions to these concerns? How many of those solutions will be lost and off the table if 9A is approved as is? A piecemeal approach is not good planning. In summary, the following questions are raised. What is the roadway plan for the entire area? If Hastings Park Drive is to be extended, widened, and reclassified as a collector road, how much traffic is to be routed through Hastings Park subdivision? Are there alternatives to routing that traffic through the subdivision? Will proceeding with the plan for 9A limit those alternatives? What is the plan for 9B? Proceeding with 9A will limit the available options for any of the other future concerns with 9B. What is the plan for increasing services such as sidewalks and sanitation sewers to Hastings Park subdivision? And how will the developments on the surrounding lands influence the drainage in our subdivision? What will the changes in elevation be, and how will they be managed to prevent overlooking effects from the new developments? We have retained independent planners to help identify alternatives. Many of these alternatives will be lost if 9A is approved. To review, this appears to be the direction that planning is headed, though it's not supported by any secondary plan. In fact, work is already underway to bring services to the south end of the property. The previously planned connection to the north of the subdivision will be lost. The old secondary plan shows no direct connection between Avonlea and Siena. If that happens and the only connection is made at Hastings Park Drive, then all future traffic will be funneled through our subdivision. Alternatively, the collector road pattern could look like this and almost completely bypass the Hastings Park subdivision. This option maintains Avonlea Road as the through road. It's the through road now. This would maintain it as the through road, and the original Hastings Park Drive as a local road. There is no need for a continuous collector road that spans the entire area. The very definition of a minor collector road in the secondary plan is to link neighborhoods to major collector and arterial roads. In this alternative, the residents of all three subdivisions are linked to collector roads. Potter's Creek is linked to Siena with the blue road, and the residents of Avonlea and Hastings Park are linked by the yellow. This option spreads the traffic out, eliminating the need to build two very disruptive and potentially very expensive traffic circles. The impacts of long, straight, continuous roads are more severe than several shorter ones. As the saying goes, the longer the road, the wider the road, the straighter the road, the faster and more hazardous that road becomes. Other alternatives exist as well, such as using the previously planned connecting road just north of Hastings Park subdivision. These and other scenarios could result in the termination of Hastings Park Drive, maintaining the character of our subdivision and its amenities. This is common practice, as occurred here with Thurlow Drive in the Maitland subdivision. Seen closer here, the only connection is for pedestrians. And the same occurred here at the south end of Hastings Park subdivision on Limerick Drive. To summarize, we have the following recommendations. Update the Loyalist secondary plan with a clear transportation plan that mitigates traffic impacts and maintains the character of Hastings Park subdivision, and look at alternatives that route traffic around it. Develop a comprehensive plan for all of Phase 9 so that solutions to concerns with Phase 9B are not constrained by the work already completed in 9A. Develop plans for changes to services in Hastings Park subdivision. Develop a plan to address the historical drainage problems that occur in this subdivision and make projections for how drainage will be influenced by new developments. And lastly, determine how elevation changes will be implemented between the two new developments and how the associated overlooking effects will be mitigated. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. Is there any questions from committee members? No, I don't see any, so thank you again. Next individual is Colleen DeMille. Ms. DeMille, you're in the meeting. If you want to unmute your microphone, you have the floor.
Having some, okay. Hi, this is Colleen DeMille. I live on 61 Montego Boulevard, and I do very much appreciate all the modifications and changes that were made. I feel highly valued as a citizen that all the work that the community did in our area was listened to, and you tried to make lots of positive changes. Still some questions though around the traffic study, and hoping that as we move forward, I wish we knew more about the plan for 9B, that we could seriously review some of the recommendations and suggestions that were just brought forward in Christopher Destin's presentation. That would be really helpful for us, and just getting to know more about the results of the traffic study that have been talked about in the fall. and how that will roll out. So I guess for us, it would be helpful to know a little bit more about Plan 9B, look over seriously some of the suggestions from Christopher Dustin, and a real thank you for all that you've done so far to make it a much more, preserve the character of the community that we currently live in. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any questions from committee members? Seeing none, thanks again. And the next participant is Cameron Mcfadden. Mr. Mcfadden, if you want to unmute your microphone, you have the floor.
Hi there, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I will be brief. I know my last speech back in August was fairly significant. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was originally part of a group from Potters Creek, around 260 of us, with the petition that I brought forth that opposed the rezoning back in August. I'm pleased to come back and speak on behalf of many of those to say that we are quite satisfied with the requested changes. I want to take the time to thank the developers and to thank the planners for listening to the concerns of the neighborhood. I know that it was a large group of us. It was over 300, but only around 260 of us signed the petition. So I want to thank the developers for listening to us. I want to thank City Council for the time allowing us to bring forth the issues that we did have. And I just want to reiterate what Chris did, what he brought up in his great presentation, and that is the traffic concerns. It's still an issue, we think, and Chris brought up some great points regarding what is going to happen with 9B and how the lands of Avonlea are going to filter in and ultimately through Potters Creek, not just Hastings Park, but also Potters Creek. So, but I would say for the most part, most of us in the Potters Creek subdivision were extremely happy. And again, thank you to the developers and the planners. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? Okay, seeing none, thanks again. And that's it for participants for this file. So can I get a motion to refer this to the Planning Advisory Committee? Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Sanderson. All in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to 3.2, Notice of Complete Application and Introductory Public Meeting for Proposed Zoning Bylaw Amendment, Bylaw 3014, 263 Shannon Road, City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1127. Owner is Gerald and Linda Mercer. And I'm going to have staff present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application is proposing to rezone the subject land as a condition of consent application B26-20. This application proposes to sever the west portion of 287A Shannon Road to the lands, to the subject land. So you can see that in the top right sketch here, that red dotted line. The lands on the left side of it will be added to the rural residential lot, which is currently 263 Shannon Road. The applicant proposes to rezone a portion of 263 Shannon Road from rural residential zone to a rural exception 14 zone with special provisions for a reduced minimum lot frontage, which would be the existing lot frontage of the subject lands. The area that is zoned as hazard zone on the subject lands will remain unchanged. The official plan designation of the subject land is rural and environmental protection. And currently we have not received any notable concerns regarding this application. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Linda Mercer listed as a participant. Ms. Mercer, you're in the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, do you have any comments you wish to make?
Not really. We just wanted to rezone this portion to add land to our existing lot and leave the other land for the other lot.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? No, seeing none. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And if I could get a motion to refer to the Planning Advisory Committee. Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Sanderson. All in favor? Motion carries. 3.3, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 3014, 92 Morgan Road, City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1128. Owner is Brock Sills. Staff could present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application is proposing to rezone the subject land as a condition of consent application B30-20, which severed the north portion of 92 Morgan Road to add to a neighboring property. The application requests to rezone the retained parcel, so that's the area that is in the hash marks in the map, in the key map shown in the presentation slides, from a rural zone to a rural residential zone. This would permit the existing residential use on the property and reflect the smaller lot size. There's no changes proposed to the severed parcel, which again will be added to the neighboring lot. The official plan designation of the subject land is rural and environmental protection, and no notable comments have been received from external or internal departments and agencies regarding the application. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Brock Sills listed as a participant. Mr.
Can you hear me
Sills.
now? Can you hear me now? Sure.
Yes,
Okay.
you have the floor.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Not really much to comment here. As Desta explained, it's just a lot addition. The remaining portion, which currently has a residence on it, will be too small to be continue to be zoned as rural and needs to be rezoned to rural residential. So it's pretty self-explanatory, not too in-depth on this one, and just here to answer any questions if there were any.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from committee members? No, I don't see any. Thank you again. And can I get a motion to refer this to the Planning Advisory Committee? Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Williams. All in favor? That's carried. 3.4, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 543 Thrasher Road, City of Belleville. File numbers B-77-1129. Owner is Martin Vanderland. Agent is Three Hills Engineering Limited. We get staff to present, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject land is approximately 20 hectares in size, and it's presently used partly for residential purposes, a single detached residential dwelling, with the remainder of the property being rural and environmental protection land. That's all the lands to the rear here. The applicant is proposing to rezone the rural portion of the property from a rural exception 2 zone to a zone that would permit a faith-based special transition home for women, which would include on-site dormitory-style housing and support services. The applicant has proposed to develop the site in multiple phases, but ultimately the supporting uses would include 4 standalone dormitory/bunk houses that would accommodate the residents, 1 activity building with activity rooms, with a dormitory on the 2nd floor, 1 workshop, 1 chapel, and a barn for home industry. The applicant submitted a number of reports and studies in support of the application, and this includes a planning justification report, as well as a hydrogeological study. All of the supporting information is available on the city's website for review. The existing single detached dwelling, log cabin, and lean-to cover on the subject property would remain as part of the proposed development, and no changes are proposed to the rural residential zone, prime agriculture exception zone, or hazard zone on the subject land. No development is proposed also in the environmentally significant land. It would all be within the current rural exception 2 zone. Staff have received public correspondence regarding the application since the publishing of the staff report, which will be included and addressed in a future recommendation report. The official plan designation of the subject land is rural and environmental protection. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Martin Vanderland as a participant. Mr. Vanderland, you are in the meeting.
Greetings. Thank you for having me here today, and appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about our plans for this property. I have a presentation. I'm wondering if staff has it there or if I'm to share.
We'll just check here.
Okay, we can skip ahead to the third slide there. So as you heard, I am the current owner of the land on 543 Thrasher Road. The purpose of the rezoning is to help facilitate the relocation of New Life Women's Home. It's a nonprofit organization helping women that struggle with addiction. It's been around for 30 years. It was formerly located in the county, funded by corporations, business, individuals, and churches. The program itself is a one-year treatment program with an opportunity for students to stay on for a second year. As I said, the purpose for relocation, the main one was the facilities at the old location in Consicon had really come to the end of their life and really looking for a bigger piece of property. The property there was 4.5 acres, and here we would have, close to 20 acres. Available to work with for buildings and for the program. It's still rural in setting, but it does give us a little closer access to city amenities, for bringing students in for doctor's appointments and that kind of thing. So it works better for that. Next slide, please. I think most of us are aware of the need in our country, in our world, when it comes to addiction and hopelessness. Hastings, Prince Edward County itself consistently has higher opioid-related emergency department visits and hospitalizations and deaths than the rest of Ontario. Statistically, 2021 appears that there's going to be, upwards of a 40% increase in things like detox center visits, mental health issues from 2020, from 2019. Over the last 4 years, 14,000 Canadians have died from opiate overdoses, 1,535 of those in Ontario alone. And statistically, women are actually more likely to abuse prescription drugs. Next slide, please. I put the picture on the slideshow. I know we're talking about women, but I used the picture in the slideshow for the last 2 slides on purpose. When we talk about addictions, many of us have a mental image that comes to mind, or words or thoughts, and there's a stigma associated with it. But the reality is that for opioid use in Hastings and Prince Edward County, it crosses all ages, genders, socioeconomic levels, and ethnicities. The Human Rights Commission speaks against stereotyping people who use drugs, such as they're being undesirable, prone to criminal behavior, or not part of our community. What they really need, people that struggle with these kind of issues in their life, really need a supportive social environment to help change their behavior. And it's a very important part, and that's what we hope to offer. New Life, like I said, has been around for 31 years, helping women find freedom from addiction, with an average over those years of about 3.8 students graduating the program every year. I think the former facility had between 10 and 15 beds available at different times. So next slide, please. Just to put a little flesh and blood on it, I've got a slide here of Jennifer. Jennifer was born into a broken and abusive home, and at the age of 12, she was placed into foster care. By the time she was 16, she had been in 30 different placements. She got involved in drugs and crime and ended up in prison. And at the age of 21, she came to New Life Women's Home. She sums up her experience in this way. She said, "I never experienced such love and such challenge at the same time." She spent a year in the program and would say it changed her life. She's now married with a family and works at Belleville General Hospital in supportive care. And she says her greatest desire is to love people and offer them the hope, just as she experienced all those years ago at New Life Women's Home. Next slide, please. I just want to talk a little bit about the intake of the program. New Life Women's Home is not a detox center nor a medical care facility. The first thing we're looking for, step one in taking a resident in, is they must want to make positive change in their lives. The program is voluntary. Nobody's there, because they don't want to be. They're there because they want to change their life. They're willing to acknowledge their addiction and their affliction, and they're ready to commit to at least a 10-month program coming in. Step two, admission process. Each individual is asked to identify a trustworthy sponsor during and for after the program. Transition out of these types of programs is very important piece of it. So we work with them from the beginning to help them identify that person in their life. And as they come in, we're looking for people to come around them and vouch for their readiness to put the effort into changing their life. We have a comprehensive application form that expects them to give an honest account of their recovery learning to date and the current reality and their vision and desire for personal growth. Performance contract, we have a performance contract that confirms their commitment to define behavioral expectations, program values and rules, and specific work contribution and payment arrangements. Next slide, please. Just touch briefly on daily program key components. There's a high level of accountability in our program. Their time is scheduled from the early morning, 6 a.m. till 10:30 at night. It's laid out for them. Recovery happens in the midst of supportive community of peers and mentors. They attend recovery classes for 2 to 3 hours a day. And throughout the remainder of the day, they learn about and develop life management skills. Part of it is practicing a healthy and active lifestyle, building healthy relationships. And throughout the time, there's ongoing program evaluations for each student. Next slide, please. We've asked for some workshop space on the site, and it's actually an important part of the program, creating some social industry on site. It's part of helping to create a disciplined daily schedule and structure, part of character development and vocational training. And it helps for the future, for equipping and helping these individuals become dependable as they go out back into the workforce or back to school, wherever they're being led at that point. It helps teaches an ability to meet obligations and perform responsibilities, manage their time and money, and be a community contributor, and plan for future personal growth and development in their own lives. Next slide, please. Desta mentioned that a phased approach to construction of the facilities at 543 Thrasher. We expect a minimal impact of traffic, and that's because the residents are asked to leave their vehicles, if they own vehicles at this stage in their life, to leave them with family members somewhere else. As part of the program, any trips into town or anything, appointments that they need to go to, staff accompanies them and takes them to that. So there's very minimal traffic impact that way. Our first year of operation, we expect 3 to 6 students and to grow the facilities and the program, from that point. It's hard to say exactly what that might look like, but in my best hopes and dreams, phase 1, year 1 to 5, we'd get the main building up and a couple dorms and a workshop. And in years 5 to 10, the accompanying dorm 3 and 4, another workshop, and hopefully somewhere in there a chapel to be able to finish out the site planning. So that gives you a bit of a general overview. Next slide, please. I'll just stop there because the next part is about just the construction a little bit. Just wonder if there's any questions so far on that.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions from committee members? I see Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Martin, I don't have a question for you, but maybe this isn't the time or place, but I'll say it anyway. I was really impressed. I hope it goes well for you. And I think this New Life Women's Home would make a significant impact in our community. And thank you for this, and hopefully everything works out for you.
Appreciate that, Councillor. Thank
Any
you.
other, Mayor Panchuk?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Vanderland. So I saw in terms of your estimated schedule, did I read correctly? The presentation's not back up again. 3 to 6 students in the first year you were planning?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of money to raise to make this thing happen. I'm still hoping for construction phase this year and open doors in a small way in 2022. And, you know, depending on how intake goes and as we could work on rebuilding the team, you know, that's what I would anticipate that we could manage in that coming first year.
Thank you. So if you receive the rezoning approval, you have construction that has to occur for the remainder of this year, 2021, and you'd be looking at having your first intake in 2022.
That is correct. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And
if I could speed it up, I would, but I think I've got a pretty tight schedule as it is.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you. So I have Curtis Rugenhill as the next participant.
I could just carry on the second half of my presentation. I'm in contact with Curtis, so I can just carry on and finish the presentation that way. And he can, if there's any questions, he can help me out.
Okay.
So we can go to the next slide, please. So the proposed property, keep going, next slide, please. Proposed property is, like I said, on 543 Thrasher Road. It's 20 hectares. Frontage is 52.4 meters. The land mass 366 by 457. You can see it. It's the squared area there on your picture. It was a lot addition to our personal residence a number of years ago, and you know, it lies behind. You can see the other residents that are in front of it. I guess what I would say here is you can see the kind of the area in pink there was an extra 24 feet, I believe it is, that was part of it, is where we intend for the entrance to come into the proposed site. So everything, of course, will stay connected, including the house dwelling that I currently live in. Next slide. This is a proposed site plan. You can see there the roadway coming in with the these, what do you call, fire circle at the end for the fire trucks to be able to turn around and come back out. That ends in the parking lot where the main building will be. What you should know, it doesn't show well on the site, but the property is a bit of a hill, a knoll I call it, with the high point being basically that green area between the buildings. So the dorms, where the dorms are located, are actually on the back side of this hill, quite separated from any of the residents on the front side. So that gives you a pretty good overview of the proposed property there. You can see the main buildings, 4 proposed dorms, a septic field, chapel, and a couple of workshops. The tan or brown area is a riding ring that we've got in there for our horses, or horse and a couple donkeys at this point. Next slide. These are the proposed buildings that we draw on. The main building you'll see on the top left there is about 40 by 80, 3,200 square feet on the main floor. Top on the right gives you a bit of an overview. You can see, if you look on the left of that picture, there's a fair amount of woods that still separates the buildings from the houses, which would be on the left. They're not drawn there, creating a significant buffer. Bottom left is the proposed dorms. You can see that they're walkout because they're on that hill that I described. And then the workshop design that we're looking at for the residents to work out of and do some social industry. Next slide. This was the preliminary constraints mapping that was done this fall. You can see the green area is the wetlands that we won't be doing anything with Parks Creek running through the back side there. So most all the construction will be in the brown wooded area where you see it there. And you can see the separation from the houses along Thrasher Road there. Next slide. This gives you a Google Maps view, I guess, of the surrounding lands. To the left of the proposed property is actually Frink Center Conservation land. To the right is the farmland. And so, yeah, the residents are mostly all to the front, or to the lower side that you see there. Yeah, I think most people know where the Frink Conservation area is. That gives you an idea where we are, but it's 11.5 kilometers from the 401, access through Highway 37. Next slide. Yeah, some of the work we've already initiated, pre-consultation with staff we did earlier this year, concept plan, site plan drawing, as you've seen, landscape plan, site photos, elevation drawings, planning justification report, proposed draft bylaw amendment, functional servicing study, hydro-G study, contact. We've had Quinte Conservation come out and which led us to creating the environmental impact study. Next slide. Our statement of purpose and effect, conservation uses, farm, forestry, riding or boarding stable, a transition home with activities including education services, life skill classes, community service, and recreational activities. The transitional home would provide on-site housing in the form of dormitory style housing, support services, including meal preparation, laundry services will be provided. We've had to kind of think ahead about this process is kind of new to me, so I had to really think out my full vision, what was in my heart, and get it on paper. So maximum number of buildings, 11 standalone bunkhouses, 4, maximum number of residents in those bunks, 40. 1 activity building with activity rooms, studios, workroom on main floor and dormitory on second floor. Chapel, workshop, a barn for home industry. And then there's, of course, my existing house, and there's a small log cabin and a small lean for our horses. Next slide. Just quoting the official plan, affordable and special needs housing. This plan encourages the creation of sufficient affordable special needs housing to meet the current and future needs of the community. The majority of such housing would be created through new residential construction. To achieve this objective, council should ensure sufficient lands are zoned for a variety of housing types, including small, single detached and attached dwellings, multiple dwellings, accessory apartments, rooming and lodging houses. We believe the official plan encourages the creation of special needs housing and recommends that, and we recommend that council, the official plan encourages the creation of special needs housing and recommends that council ensure sufficient lands are zoned to provide this type of housing. We believe this development proposal helps implement and operationalize the direction given in the official plan. So we're here to help the city and help the hurting individuals that just need I call it a reset time in their life. And that's our hearts. That's what we want to do. And, we hope the community's behind us. We did go around and meet with our neighbors, and the majority of them, were supportive of what we're doing here. And I really appreciate the councilors, Councillor Sanderson and Cara, that took the time out and to walk the property and kind of hear a vision. That's helpful. And city staff as well that came out. So thank you for your time and for listening. And if you have any questions, I'll hang on here for a few more minutes.
Okay, so thank you for that part 2. Any questions from committee members? No? Okay, thank you. We have, and I apologize on my pronunciation, Linda Ankovic Wig as a participant. Yeah, so from what I understand, Mr. Brugden Hill is not participating. So I have, and again, I apologize for the pronunciation, Miss Ankowick Wig. If you want to unmute your phone. So to unmute your phone, it's a *6. IT is telling me. There you go. You
Hi,
have
can
the
you
floor.
hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. My concern is, I've got a couple. I'm in a very low-lying area. And when the city came out and raised the road to do some new paving, it did actually flood my garage. So I've almost got like a protected wetland out here, so that would be one of my concerns.
Okay, you can proceed.
Okay. The other would be if there's going to be 40 people back there, we're on a well. So I think that would tax our well as well. And security. For that, there would be 40 people with one staff member. And I can't see how that could feasibly work.
Okay. Yeah, so you have the floor. So if those are all your concerns, do you have anything else you wish to add? All the committee is here and can hear your concerns as well as city staff.
And the other would be not against faith-based, but there would be no medical professionals on site to help deal with mental health conditions and addictions as well. Those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you for those, and those will be noted by members, committee members, and staff. While I still have you, is there any questions from committee members?
No, not at this point.
Okay, I'm just checking with our committee members. I'm not seeing any hands, so thank you very much for your comments, and they'll be considered.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I have no other participants for this file. Can I get a motion to refer this to the Planning Advisory Committee? Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? Motion's carried. 3.5, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 466A Airport Parkway, City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1130. Owner is Brian Reed, and the agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated. If I could get staff to present the application, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject land is approximately 23 hectares in size, and it's currently used for agricultural purposes, as well as it has a single detached dwelling. In addition to the primary uses, the property has been used informally as a depot for property maintenance business and to sell bulk landscaping materials such as mulch. These additional uses led to a bylaw enforcement complaint on the property, which then led to the submission of this application. The applicant is proposing to amend the existing prime agriculture zone on the property to permit 3 additional land uses. This would include a depot for a property maintenance business, a mini storage business, and bulk landscaping material sales business. No changes are proposed to the rural zone and hazard zone, which are on the northwest corner of the property. Supporting information, including a planning justification report and traffic impact study, was submitted with the application, and that it is available on the city's website for review. The city has received public correspondence regarding the application since the publication of the staff report, as well as comments from CN Railway, which will be included and addressed in the future recommendation report. The official plan designation of the subject land is recreational commercial. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have Spencer Hutchison listed as a participant to speak on the application. Okay, Mr. Hutchison, you are in the meeting, and staff are putting your presentation up. Mr. Hutchison, you're in the meeting, and I'll stay for a second. We have you back now. Your microphone was muted.
How's that? Is that better?
That is better. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chairman Carr, and thanks to Desta for the introduction. We have a brief PowerPoint presentation starting with the first slide here. The subject property, is, as noted, is a large rural property on the south side of Airport Parkway. The west end of the property is basically fields. All activity is confined to the east end of the property. Next slide. So over 23 hectares, it's a farm with a barn, outbuildings, hen house, horses, paddocks, and fields, and 823 meters of frontage along the CN rail line, and above that to the north, Airport Parkway. To the south is a former and a small airstrip. To the west and east are basically vacant rural lands. Access to the property is in the northeast corner, and you can vaguely see it on the air photo by a fully signalized level crossing with lights, bells, and barriers. Next slide. So as noted by Desta, we're looking to add 3 uses, which I would suggest are complementary to the existing farm use, and to assist in providing revenue for the farming operation, the horses. As you know, agriculture and rural uses are economically challenging at times. So the owner has a property management business, which we want to recognize, which would be 5 pickup trucks with trailers that would head out into Belleville to do yard maintenance at various properties. We'd like to get 10 mini lock storage units in terms of metal containers. They are the southwest corner. And lastly, to sell in bulk mulch and topsoil and other landscaping products. You can see the picture of the mulch and other materials in the center. Next slide. So in terms of the location, this is a blow up of the northeast corner of the property. The railway line and Airport Parkway is running parallel to the top of the slide. Top right corner is the farmhouse. Adjacent to that is 2 outbuildings. And so the yard maintenance business would operate from that sort of purple area, parking of trucks and trailers, and the storage of grass cutters, weed whippers in one of the outbuildings. And then to the south and west, in the green area, you would have your bins for landscaping materials, and just slightly adjacent to that to the west, you would have your mini lock storage units. There is a hedgerow along the south property line, and that could be increased in depth and filled in with new plantings, and a privacy fence could be put along that property line as part of a site plan. Next slide. So far, we've pre-consulted with city staff. We provided a site plan, a justification report, and a traffic input study that was referenced. The pictures here show in the top left the arms and lights at Airport Parkway at the driveway into this property. To the top right is the farmhouse. Bottom right are the storage containers, and the bottom left is the barn on the subject property. Next slide. So we did, Ainley out of Barrie did a traffic impact study for us, and basically the level of traffic that would be generated by all these uses is very low, and the existing network could handle it without any change, except that it's recommended that eastbound, looking in the picture on the cover, there'd be a tapered lane so that anybody coming out of Belleville heading east who wanted to turn into the property would be fully off the traveled section of the road, the eastbound travel lane, and be off to the side before turning right into the property. Next slide. Here's the official plan that was referenced. I guess the second point is the main one. There's no requirement for official plan amendment. And at best, this property and the adjacent property to the south are shown on the official plan current as Belleville Airport and a unique recreational commercial use. Next slide. And the rezoning, right now, the land is zoned prime agriculture, and we're just going to ask for a request to a special prime agriculture that allows all the uses in the regular PA zone, but with the 3 extra uses that have been mentioned previously. Next slide. And that is it. Any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. And go back to full screen here. Any questions from the committee members? No, I don't see any. Oh, wait, yes, I do. Mayor Pancham.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, Mr. Hutchinson. Thanks for being with us today. Have you seen the correspondence that we've received from CN regarding traffic going across the railroad crossing?
Yes, Desta was kind enough to forward that. I'm going to say between Christmas and New Year's. So it doesn't come as a surprise. It was mentioned at our pre-consultation meeting with City at the beginning of the whole process. That was part of the reason for doing the traffic study to get a handle on the volume of traffic. And personally, I don't think the CN comments are insurmountable. But yes, I do have a copy. And following this meeting, we will be continuing discussions with staff and with CN.
Okay, thank you. Just one more question. The traffic study that was done in support of this application, did they contact CN and get that information?
Yeah, interestingly enough, we had to acquire from CN at a cost traffic volumes, train traffic, to calculate the delays and whatnot. And the gentleman who provided the train traffic information is the same gentleman who presented the email that came in last week. Yeah, we had initial, he didn't mention any time when he provided the traffic numbers, the train traffic numbers, but his comments have come in subsequently.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep, take care.
Ms. Brown.
Apologies, I was just trying to get off mute. Mr. Hutchison, in your presentation, you referred to 3 businesses which are in fact existing today on the property that resulted in the bylaw complaint. Is that correct?
I would suggest only one. To my understanding, the storage containers are there, but they're just sitting there. They've never been rented or occupied. And the mulch and the other stuff, I believe, are materials in support of the landscape business. And I could stand to be corrected by the owner, but I don't believe they've been made access to any public member as such.
Okay. So it's my understanding from looking at their Facebook page that there's a number of other businesses that weren't referenced in your presentation. So for instance, a tool rental business that requires people to come on site to rent tools, a horse boarding business that may be part of the original prime agricultural that requires a number of pickup trucks and horse trailers to come across the CN crossing. I'm also curious why, and then I'll turn it back to you, why there's no reference to the easement that's in place for the property that actually resides behind the Reed's property, and what implications there will be from this rezoning to the easement and their access to their property and behind.
Okay, thank you for those comments. The owner is on this meeting and can jump in afterwards. I'm aware the horses are there, that it's a riding stable, which is perfectly acceptable within the use. I can't speak for the equipment rental. Again, whether some of the landscaping tools that are maybe possibly rented out when they're not being used by the owner, I can't speak to that. Again, I would suggest in one sense, that shows that the railway crossing has been tested and has not found wanting. The other point is the easement really is not germane to this rezoning. Basically, back in time, and I worked at the city when we did this, the property to the south of this had to get access to Airport Parkway to come and go. And so legally, there was an easement from the north, from Airport Parkway, south to the property. And in 2012, we readjusted that easement because physically it was not on top of where it was legally shown. There was part of a building in the way. But that easement is on title. The owners to the south have legal right to unimpeded access across the property. And nothing changes because of the proposed use. The pickup trucks are parked to the north off the side. There will be no parking or any impedance to the right-of-way or easement. And so it's a legal issue that's, like I say, I don't think it's germane to this application.
Okay, so if I may, just a follow-up question. You've referenced the 5 pickup trucks, but what of the tri-axles vehicles that are bringing in the material, the topsoil, the mulch that's referenced, and the 3 piles that are directly behind the barn on their property?
Yeah, so excuse me, what's the question?
So I'm just curious, you've referred, and I'm sorry, I didn't say that well. You've referred to the 5 pickup trucks that will come and go, but it's my understanding that there's also triaxles that bring product onto the property that is used as part of the landscaping business, that being the aggregates and the mulch that's actually sitting in behind the barn and shown on the drawings. So did the traffic study actually take into consideration that much larger vehicles than pickup trucks access this property?
I haven't got the report in front of me, but we provided the transportation engineer with all the details of the use. So I'd have to go back and revisit what the calculations were based on.
Ms. Brown, do you have anything further?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from committee members? No, I don't see any. Thank you, Mr. Hutchison.
Have a great evening.
You as well. Next participant in support of the application is Brian Reed. I'm told Mr. Reed is not in the waiting room. So we'll move on at this point. I'll just check at the end of this portion. Speaking against the application is David and Sharon Bird.
There is a
Just waiting for Mr. and Mrs. Bird. So Mr. and Mrs. Bird, you're in the meeting. If you want to unmute your microphone, and you can have the floor.
Thank you. In 2014, we started to complete the build of our retirement home at 466B Airport Parkway, looking forward to a quiet rural living. At that time, there existed a hobby horse farm with the Reeds, owning a few horses and boarding another few horses. They also ran a lawn maintenance business that included a couple of trucks and trailers. The Reeds now are proposing 3 ancillary uses of the property. A depot for a property maintenance business. They have been operating a part-time property maintenance business from the property since they moved there in 2008. They began a full-time operation in and around 2011. Started with 1 truck and trailer and has grown to 5+. 10 mini locked storage units in the form of metal containers, and the sale of bulk materials found at a garden center, mulch, topsoil, sand, and gravel. This business was established and began operation spring of 2020, and this is what has triggered these proceedings. Traffic into our properties was limited to family and friends, with the occasional visit from owners of the horses that were boarded at the Reeds. Over the last 3 to 4 years, we have witnessed the increase of additional traffic from the property maintenance business, going from a single truck and trailer to 5 trucks and 5 employees, a tandem axle dump trailer, and a backhoe for additional snow removal. Jessan currently runs multiple businesses out of their property. They offer grass cutting and trimming, coming in and out of the property to drop off litter and grass clippings, passing directly in front of our home, fertilizing, overseeding, hedge trimming, weeding and edging, window cleaning, eave trough cleaning, not to mention horse boarding, salt sanding, snow plowing, birthday parties, wedding photos out of a 12-by-16 building. They also list income property management services on their website. While we have seen the increase of traffic come to the property, we are extremely concerned with the proposal of yet another 3 businesses being added to the already long list of businesses that they are currently operating. All the added proposals are directly impacting my family, as the area proposed is directly in front of our home and in direct view from our front entrance, primary bedroom window, and our yard. This will prevent us from enjoying our property, as this will increase dust, noise, appearance, and safety, as people could be coming and going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The ocean containers, as stated on their website, are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Currently, we are dealing with the comings and goings of sand and salt trucks in the early hours of the morning, shining their lights directly into our bedroom window and front entrance. The proposed site and driveway is only approximately 120 feet from our front entrance. Shipping containers in full view from our front door and side yard. All deliveries and loading of vehicles directly face our home. The only barrier is cedar trees, which we planted to help suppress the view of existing shed for sand and salt and all their machinery. It would in no way help eliminate the view of the proposed storage or material bins. The safety of our family and friends is a top priority. Our safety and our own personal privacy at 70 years old is a concern with this so close to our home. There have been fatalities on the track at this property in the past. The most recent, as you may remember, was a dump truck during the construction of the 3rd track on this private crossing. There were multiple trucks and trucks with trailers coming to purchase product and access the ocean container storage. If a train is on the track, there is room for 1 vehicle to safely park. Any other vehicles would be parked on the road, potentially causing an accident. Airport Parkway is a relatively busy road, even though it is not posted as a detour for Highway 401 or Highway 2, it is used as such. As well, it sees many transports from the transport training facility at the corner of Airport Parkway and College Street, and it is also a direct route to a couple of local gravel pits. Our top priority is safety. I do not see how changing the zoning to this property will allow for safe crossing of the tracks, being able to safely park on the road, waiting for trains to clear the tracks, nor does it allow for safe exit of the property. The amount of incoming and outgoing traffic with the already non-compliant businesses being operated out of the property poses enough safety concern at present. Adding to that is an accident waiting to happen. Thank you for your time. Please refer to the letter my wife and I submitted for much more detail, as well as a letter from Fulton Planning that will come shortly if it isn't there now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bird, and I've confirmed with the city clerk we have all of your submissions.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any questions from committee members? No, I don't see any. Thank you for your presentation. Next one listed is Howard Allison. Mr. Allison, you are in the meeting, and if you unmute your microphone, you can have the floor.
Just unmute. You can.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, my name is Howard Allison, and I work with my dad, John Allison, in the spring and fall doing cash crop farming along Airport Parkway. And we have farmed behind the subject property for many years, and we've used the CN Railway Crossing as the entrance. And we go through the easement being mentioned here quite often. The main issues that we see with the zoning bylaw amendment application are the safety issues relating to the CN Railway Crossing, along with the uses that I don't consider related to farming with respect to the 3 proposed businesses, the depot for the property maintenance business, the 10 mini lock storage units, and the bulk landscaping business, all of which would significantly increase public traffic flow over this crossing. When exiting the CN Railway Crossing, there's only a 14-foot landing between the double stop line and the airport parkway. And when returning from farmland that we work behind the subject property through the easement, much of the machinery we take over, including the cultivator, the planter with a packer behind it, or a plow with a tractor, they're all over 14 feet long. And it takes time to cross over the 3 railway tracks before getting onto Airport Parkway. And as a result, there may be an oncoming car approach that you did not see previously. So if you misjudge the speed of the traffic and you have to wait on the north side of the crossing and a new train is approaching, you could be forced to drive out on the Airport Parkway to keep from being hit from an oncoming train. Based on the railway traffic report included in the application, the new VIA passenger train, it can pass this crossing in 7 seconds and is traveling at 100 kilometers an hour, which makes it very easy to sneak up on you. New customers to these proposed businesses, they could have the same issue crossing these tracks, particularly if they have a landscaping trailer. Also, these new landscaping customers who are unfamiliar to the area will not have much experience in how to negotiate the clearing with the 3 tracks while determining if it's safe to enter Airport Parkway. Unlike us, we are mostly going over during the planting season and the harvest season. Customers and workers to these new businesses will be going over the crossing daily in spring, summer, fall, and even winter for some. Even though there is a signalized level crossing with lights, bells, and barriers, good judgment is still required to check for the oncoming traffic on Airport Parkway. We don't have this issue at Elmwood Drive or Airport Parkway, that crossing, because there's traffic lights there. And Mitchell Side Road and Airport Parkway, they have a stop sign at both on the east and westbound traffic. For oncoming traffic into the newly proposed business, if there is a train passing by, it only allows the crossing only allows for about 1 car, and the remaining cars will need to wait on the road until the train has passed. This will require the ongoing traffic on Airport Parkway to drive around these cars and hopefully not meet any oncoming cars coming from the other direction. I think that the traffic is still quite significant. And if there is an accident right now, if there's one on 401 or Highway 2, the traffic often gets rerouted to Airport Parkway. And both of these would greatly increase the ongoing traffic. Also, with regards to the 3 businesses being proposed, all of these businesses would increase public traffic flow over the CN Railway, and none of them, I don't consider them complementary to the farming business, in my opinion. The depot for the property maintenance business, it appears to be more related to residential and commercial property maintenance, and there's no evidence in the report to suggest otherwise. Also, the 5 property maintenance trucks with their landscaping trailers would be coming and going over the tracks throughout the year, especially if this business includes snow removal as well. And we've seen they've had snow plows on their trucks. So it's obvious that they would be doing snow removal as well. For the 10 mini lock storage units, the proposed application, it doesn't specify how they're complementary to the farming. And they would most likely be rented out to City of Belleville residents to help them with their excess storage needs, which is not farm related. Once customers rent these bins, they would want to come regularly to visit them by coming and going throughout the year, and they would increase public traffic over the crossing. For the bulk landscaping business, there's no indication that the landscaping materials to be sold would be produced on the farm. Things like the mulch that's mentioned, most of these materials would likely be trucked in regularly on the 3-axle trailer that they're mentioning. And this would result in even more trips over the CN Railway crossing, in addition to customers coming to purchase these materials. Even if any one of these businesses were considered complementary, they would significantly increase the public traffic over the CN Railway. And also this would cause a considerable amount of the property's underlying use to change to commercial, thereby obstructing the main agricultural use. All of these businesses would be more appropriate, I think, in a commercial area, not in residential and agricultural areas like Airport Parkway. Also, if the proposed additional uses are permitted as complementary uses to the main farm use, it is possible these businesses will expand, and this expansion will be difficult to monitor in the future. And Mr. Bird mentioned that, how they've grown over the years, so they've added more things throughout the years. And I think it would be very difficult to monitor. In summary, there is evidence of possible safety issues relating to the CN Railway, and the increased public traffic from these new businesses proposed will result in too many people going over the crossing. As a result, the chance of accidents happening in the future will increase significantly. Let's be proactive and try to prevent possible accidents from occurring. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Any questions from committee members? No, I'm not seeing any. Thanks again.
Yep.
I have Warren McFall listed as a possible participant. Okay, he's not in the waiting room. Mr. Ranowski? Yeah. Mr. Rankowski, you are in the meeting. If you unmute your microphone, you have the floor. Mr. Ranowski, you want to just unmute your microphone? You're in the meeting. Mr. Ranowski, you need to just unmute your microphone. Okay. Okay. So he was in the waiting room and he raised his hand on the issue. So it's part of a public meeting. We're trying to give him the opportunity, but. Okay. So we gave him the opportunity. He was in the meeting. At this time, we have no one else. So I'll just continue on. So I need a motion to refer this to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting. Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? That's carried. I need a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by, I need a seconder, please. Councillor Kelly, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So moving on to the Planning Advisory Committee, with attendance, everyone's present. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof? Seeing none, I need confirmation of the minutes of the City Council Planning Committee meeting and Planning Advisory Committee meeting held December 7th, 2020. Moved by Mr. Joyce, seconded by Councillor Sanderson. All in favor? That's carried. No deputations. Any other correspondence? Mr. Clerk? Okay, so there has been some correspondence received, and that'll be off to planning staff. Referrals from the public meeting. 6.1, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting, Potters Creek Phase 9A revised application for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 1045 and 2076-80, part of block 65, block 66, plan 21M-288, part of lots 33 and 34, concession 1, former township of Sydney, now city of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1117. Owner is Potters Creek Developments Incorporated and DeWall Holdings Limited. The agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated. The resolution reads that the report number PP-2021-01 dated January 4th, 2021 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for Potters Creek Phase 9A revised application for proposed zoning bylaw amendment to zoning bylaws 10-245 and 2076-80 as amended, part of block 65, block 66, plan 21M-288, part of lots 33 and 34, concession 1, former township of Sydney, now city of Belleville, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received and assessed and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. I get somebody to move that, please. Mr. Baltutis, and seconded by Councillor Williams. Any questions or comments? Mr. Baltutis.
Through the chair, I guess, to the committee somewhere. Is there a bus route going to end up going up through Siena to Avonlea Road to accommodate these three? I want to call them low-income complexes, 2 bedrooms that they're planning on building way out in the middle of nowhere, where people who don't have access to a bus route, or how do you get out to that part of this new subdivision?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Thank you.
So those apartment building blocks that they're discussing are not necessarily low-income apartment blocks. They're actually pretty expensive apartment blocks, and quite a good attribute for any community to have. There will be bus routes. That's a mandate of the city to provide bus routes. Whether those bus routes go in now or when there's future development will be sort of a consideration of the transportation department. But we can definitely, as background information, provide some or contact them and get a better idea when they expect bus routes to come through.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, I see a couple hands. Mr. Joyce.
Yeah, first of all, I'm pleased to see the changes that have been made. I was at the initial visit to the site when the developer was there, and I knew there was lots of concerns in that, so it's good to see that. I'm still a little bit confused about the Hastings Drive transportation access issue. Maybe I'm the only one, but the presentation was quite significant when they talked about that. So everything else about the subdivision makes a lot of sense, and I think they have made changes to relate to that. Just the Hastings Drive. So I don't know whether anyone on staff can respond, or that'll be part of the next planning discussion that we're going to have as to how that gets incorporated into the whole transit plan and the 9B concern vis-a-vis the subdivision.
So yeah, I can answer that question. So the transportation study was submitted as part of the reapplication. So we'll analyze that before bringing it back to the committee. So I think there was some discussion through the one participant that the Hastings Drive was being incorporated as part of the road network for that area. We'll analyze the whole traffic study area as well as what was approved originally for Potter's Creek when it was originally approved, and some of our recommendations will reflect that analysis. But in the interim, so we will sort of look through it through our engineering section as well as our development approval section, and analyze their traffic studies as well.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Yeah, I think it's just the uncertainty of what's happening in phase 9B that's probably got people concerned. So maybe just some comments in regard to expectations of 9B without detail, and that may help with better understanding the traffic impact.
Okay, I have Ms. Brown.
I believe this question would be for Director Ashton. One of the speakers today referenced the Loyalist secondary plan. And I know that typically that follows the official plan, but is there any work underway currently related to the Loyalist secondary plan and its implications to the official plan?
So there's probably two elements going on. This Potter's Creek was a development that was approved previously. But the second part is, yes, we are looking at Loyalist secondary plan. It will be a major growth area for the city within its urban boundaries. It includes some major infrastructure investment from the city, and the secondary plan update is a project that's been identified in the development charge study. So yeah, you will see work going on in the next, or it'll commence in the next year or two with council approval of the budget.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Yes, Mayor Panchar.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carr. I guess this will go to Director Ashton as well. So just following up on that, I know the staff are going to consider the comments and work with the developer to address them. Could there be information coming back regarding that alternative transportation route that was suggested, so north of Hastings Park Drive, to take a look at what that would do to the area? Now, I note that the village of Avonlea on the west side of Avonlea Road is connected as part of this overall transportation area. So there might be some impact for that. But I do note that Ms. Ferguson Althouse's company is doing the planning on both sides of the street there. So they would have access to all that information. But I think that as we consider that going forward, potentially looking at an alternative to Hastings Park Drive is something that we should have that information. And then the other thing I wanted to ask a question about is with respect to the previous developments that have happened south of this area, where I understand there still exists some drainage concerns and some of the neighbors are still not satisfied with that. What is being done to ensure that the remedies that were discussed and promised with city staff are actually being implemented?
Okay, so in terms of the overall transportation network, so we will take the opportunity to sort of take a step back and not look at it from just specifically 9A, but look at the entire area and how it will function. So, and not just function to service Potter's Creek, but function to be extended sort of to service other areas as well. So that will take a bit of time. So it's obviously not going to be an analysis that occurs in time for next month, sort of idea for next month's Planning Advisory Committee. So in terms of the drainage issues, we're always working with the developer to address those issues. We do have securities as well before we assume those municipal right-of-ways and those matters. We make sure that the drainage issues are addressed to the best that they can be based upon the plans and the developer's engineer sign-offs, etc. Or else we won't release their securities.
Okay, well, thank you. And I just, I think there was some comments made about there was significant progress from last summer's meeting, where obviously the city and the developer are really working hard at trying to incorporate some of the comments of the concern. So I'm very, very happy to see that. Again, I just wanted a little more information with respect to the transportation and the road system. But I also want to make sure that we don't proceed with projects if we still haven't satisfied the requirements from before. And I appreciate we're holding security. But I, like many of us on the committee, we took a walk there this summer and saw some of the new changes in elevation and some of the drainage problems. So I think those need to be resolved and resolved quickly. But thank you very much for hearing those comments.
Any other questions or comments on this one? Okay, I'd just like to add just a little bit on that as well. I did walk the property back in July with some of the neighbors. The southeast corner of the existing Hastings Park subdivision, the elevation is grotesquely high, is the best way to describe it. It is not complementary to the existing development in any way, shape, or form. The other thing I noticed, and just following up on Mayor Panchuk's comment, there's supposed to be, I guess, according to the neighbors, a swale there. There isn't. There is a complete drop off of the new subdivision portion into existing properties. And as the one neighbor presented, Mr. Dustin, it's partial services there. So those backyards actually have septic and with tile beds. And obviously staff are aware that the last thing you want to do is have extra groundwater saturating a tile bed. So the concern for elevation is certainly real. And, just based on what I saw further south, it's not complementary at all to the existing development. So I know that that may not play into the zoning application piece, but obviously residents are looking for some assurances that those are being considered going forward. So I'll just leave those comments there. If there's no other questions or comments, all in favor? It's carried. 6.2, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 3014, 263 Shannon Road, City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1127. The owner is Gerald and Linda Mercer. The resolution reads that report number PP-2021-02 dated January 4th, 2021 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 263 Shannon Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction and Engineering Development Services Department. Need somebody to move that, please. Mr. Joyce, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. 6.3, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 3014, 92 Morgan Road, City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1128. Owner is Brock Sills. Resolution reads that report number PP-2021-03 dated January 4th, 2021 regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 92 Morgan Road, City of Belleville, County of Hastings be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received and assessed and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Ms. Brown, seconded by Mr. Baltutis. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. 6.4, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 543 Thrasher Road, City of Belleville, File numbers B-77-1129, owners Martin Vanderland, agent is 3 Hills Engineering Limited. The resolution reads that report number PP-2021-04, dated January 4th, 2021, regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 543 Thrasher Road, City of Belleville, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering and Development Services Department. Get somebody to move that, please. Mr. Jennings, Councillor Sanderson, any questions or comments? All in favor? That motion is carried. 6.5, notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 466A Airport Parkway, City of Belleville. File numbers B-77-1130. Owner is Brian Reed. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated. The resolution reads that report number PP-2021-05, dated January 4th, 2021, regarding notice of complete application and introductory public meeting for application for proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended, 466A Airport Parkway, City of Belleville, be received as information, and that staff report back at such time as input from the public, commenting agencies, and municipal departments has been received, assessed, and addressed to the satisfaction of the Engineering Development Services Department. Right, somebody to move that, please. Mr. Beltutis, second by Ms. Brown. Any questions or comments? Ms. Brown.
Apologies for the delay. Several times this evening, I've heard reference to correspondence from CN. And I'm wondering if that's something that would be shared. I've been through the material several times and haven't seen anything. So is that something that could be shared with everyone on the Planning Advisory Committee? My first question.
Yeah, the city clerk has heard that request, and we'll ensure we've received things up until the last minute, and so that'll be distributed. Staff have that as well to analyze over the coming weeks.
So I know, as have several other members of PAC, but I had an opportunity to actually go out. I was familiar with the property, but I also took the opportunity to go out and do a walkabout drive-through because it was a little on the muddy side. I have to echo a lot of the feedback that I'm hearing regarding the crossing of the 3 tracks. It was my understanding that with the lights and the barriers and things, that there would be sufficient room to actually hold traffic, whether it be going northbound or southbound, as a result of the barriers and the lighting. However, what I really took a hard look at today was the fact that in order to make that stop, and I'm in a sedan, so I'm not in a truck, I'm not pulling a trailer, I'm not pulling anything excess in my sedan, you really have to angle to be able to make that turn because the lights were down and a train went through. So I have a lot of concerns about the level of vehicles and the frequency of vehicles with the number of times that would be going across 3 tracks in the CN crossing. And the third thing I'd like to offer is the easement, to me, where it occurs. I don't know that the pictures that we've seen really do it justice without a walkabout. So that's why I wanted to make sure I had done that, because I was familiar with the property. And in order to get to the Bird's property in the back, it's quite a regular shape. Sorry for the hand, I talk with my hands, but it's quite a regular shape with the easement going up a fair way into the Reed's property. But it is in fact the Bird's property, and that there are vehicles that are crossing over this to get through to, I'm going to say it's a trail. I wouldn't call it a road, but a trail that's required to access the storage units. That will result in a lot of traffic, I believe, if you have 10 storage containers there. So I'm quite uncomfortable from a safety perspective. I'm uncomfortable that we haven't given enough consideration to the easement that's in place between the Reeds and the Birds property. And I think that the transit study that I had an opportunity to have a look at, I don't feel that it's comprehensive enough in terms of without consultation on that CNN report. And that's why I'm quite interested in seeing what CNN had to say about this one. That's all I have to offer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Joyce.
Yeah, to continue what Ms. Brown has said, I did the same thing. I went out to the property and toured around, and I guess I'm having real trouble. In addition to all of the comments that Ms. Brown made about safety, access, I agree that the storage units are just going to add to the volume. The fact that it was non-compliant for a number of years, at least part of the businesses, gives you a little bit of grief. And the fact that I'm just wondering if this application is coming forth because of the non-compatible issue in the bylaw enforcement. But I just don't see these businesses as being compatible with the business that's there today. I think we're adding businesses. I think we're trying to put round hole square peg here into an area that, yeah, could handle it geography wise. But I think there's a lot of incompatibility here with the existing business and the nature of the business. I just don't think it's the right location. So you add to that the safety issue, and you're right, the CP tracks, that's a very narrow access. And if you're turning into the property and there's a train and you've got, as you say, trailers or cars, yes, it's going to be backed up on Airport Parkway, despite the fact that they're going to have an access coming the other way, not so much going into Belleville. So I think there's a number of concerns that I have, and I'm going to have trouble supporting this. So just my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Through you as the chair. I spent some time with the Bird family too, took a look at it, and those pictures from the presentation for the Reed family didn't really give it justice. And they showed the shrubs there, the trees that were going to block off the area where the mulch is, and you can see it as plain as day. And I guess the other concern too, and a big one, and thanks to Catherine and Dave for pointing that out, is the traffic issue. I haven't traveled over those tracks, and I found it a little awkward and uncomfortable going through. And if you are hauling a trailer on the back of your truck with some mulch, there could be some challenges there with, as they referred to, via going by 100 kilometers plus per hour, and the CN tracks as trains as well. And another thing too, you know, there's 2 homes on the house, and you know, Mr. Bird was telling me one day last week the trucks were out loading up, I believe, with some salt, getting out to do the roads, and that was at 4 a.m. and a group of trucks with lights on their home waking them up. And I don't know if they signed up for that when they decided to build their home there a few years ago. And there was another big pile of horse manure to the west of the Bird home. And I just wonder environmentally how safe that is if there's some water in around that area as well. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you through the excuse me, through the chair. So I also was at the site, and one of the best descriptions I've heard about what the Reeds have undertaken is commercial creep. So they basically taken their businesses and migrated them without ever seeking the proper zoning or amendments to the current zoning. And so beyond what's already been mentioned by the others, when Councillor Kelly talked about the horse manure, I looked at it as well, and it's about 25 feet by 15 feet by 5 feet. So I reported that to the public health. And I think that they've already been in discussion with the Birds about that issue. And without prejudging, I mean, this is the very first step is the public meeting. And of course, all the correspondence and comments have already been fed into Director Ashton. And so I'm sure that the report that will come back will address those issues. But as it stands today, I would be hard pressed to see me supporting the application. And I'll just leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I got a motion on the floor to refer this to staff. All in favor? Motion's carried. Moving on to reports, 7.1 recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 3014, 12 Christian School Road, City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1125. Owner is Ali Dua, agent is Tanya Govedo. Resolution is that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That zoning bylaw number 3014 as amended be amended by rezoning the subject land from Highway Commercial C1 zone to Highway Commercial C112 zone with special provisions for a day nursery as permitted non-residential use. Moved by Councillor Sanderson, seconded by Mr. Jennings. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries. 7.2 recommendation report for proposed zoning bylaw amendment, bylaw 10245, 116 Frank Street, City of Belleville, file numbers B-77-1126. Owner is Catherine Whitley. Applicant is Keith Watson of Watson Land Surveyors. Resolution reads that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That zoning bylaw number 10245 is amended, be amended by rezoning the severed parcel of the subject land from residential fourth density R4 zone to open space O2-4 zone with special provisions to only permit landscaped open space, prohibit open storage, and to require a minimum area of 95% of the O2-4 zone be maintained as landscaped area. Need somebody to move that. Mr. Baltutis. Seconded by Councillor Sanderson. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, sorry, Mr. Joyce, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just one question. Did we have any subsequent response to the changes? Because obviously the proposal is very restrictive what they can do now compared to some of the concerns at the last meeting. I'm just wondering, has there been any follow-up feedback from that, or do you expect that this should meet the constraints that were provided last time?
I'll refer that to staff.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's my understanding that the reporting planner, Andrew Chan, was in correspondence with one member of the public who had provided concerns. I don't have definite information if all of those concerns were necessarily resolved by the recommendation. However, we've done our best to address the concerns through a very scoped recommendation for the zoning by applying the open space zone rather than, say, even a commercial zone, to give a very clear picture of what this area is to be used for.
Yes, thank you. No, that's my understanding too. So I just wanted to confirm you've had nothing subsequent. So that's good. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thanks for that. I'll call the question again. All in favor? That's carried. 7.3 recommendation report for proposed official plan amendment, part of Lot 3, Concession 3, formerly Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, file numbers B-50-3-35. Owner is 221-5100 Ontario Incorporated, 238-0416 Ontario Incorporated, and 239-8513 Ontario Incorporated. Applicant is Adrian Bax. Agent is RFA Planning Consultant Incorporated. Resolution reads that the Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. That application B-50-3-35 to amend the City of Belleville official plan for part of Lot 3, Concession 3, formerly Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, be approved as follows. That Schedule B land use of the official plan be amended by redesignating the subject lands from commercial land use to residential land use. Get somebody to move that, please. Ms. Brown, seconded by Mr. Joyce. Any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Moving on to information matters, 8.1 official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, monitoring report to January 4th, 2021. Need a motion to receive that. Mr. Baltuda, seconded by Councillor Sanderson. Any questions or comments on that information item? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. General business and inquiries. Does anybody have anything? No, I don't see anything. Okay, closing remarks here. The Planning Advisory Committee's applicable decisions will be forwarded to City Council for consideration, forming part of the agenda for the City Council meeting to be held at a future date. And with that, I'll call for adjournment. Moved by Mr. Baltuda, seconded by Ms. Brown. All